Mic check. 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2, 3.
Thanks for all your great work. Thank you. Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. From this helibase, firefighters and first responders have supported critical missions throughout our state to suppress fires and protect our communities. I'm honored to be joined today by some of them. DNRC's Missoula Unit, CSKT Division of Fire, Missoula Rural Fire District, Clinton Volunteer Fire Department, and St. Regis Volunteer Fire Department. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for all your hard work this summer. We're not quite... I'm also glad to be joined by Senator Steve Daines, Amanda Castor, Director of Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, Sonia Gurman, Forestry Division Administrator for the Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, Adjutant General Pete Ronick of the Montana National Guard and Director of Montana Department of Military Affairs, and some of our federal and local government partners, Keith Lanham of the U.S. Forest Service. Keith, in the back there, yep. Katie Stevens with the Bureau of Land Management, and Mike Maltaverne of the Montana State Fire Chiefs Association. Thank you all for being here today. And thank you all for joining us. As we're gathered today, thousands of first responders are currently on the front lines working to protect our communities, natural resources, and livelihoods across the state of Montana. Untold sacrifices of these brave men and women cannot be calculated in dollars or acres burned. I've met with many of them at the fire camps. I think I've been to 10 incident command posts so far this year. And I want to recognize them for risking their lives to protect our communities, our way of life, and our our treasured natural resources. I think they deserve another round of applause. Thank you so much. At the onset of this fire season, we lost Tim Hart, a smoke jumper from West Yellowstone. We have witnessed several catastrophic accidents this season, including the burnover of Dan Stephenson from Red Lodge Fire Rescue. These tragic incidents are a reminder that firefighting is dangerous, noble work. Our firefighters deserve our utmost respect and appreciation, and they deserve our support and efforts to prevent wildland fire starts. The 2021 fire season has been one of the hottest and driest we've seen in a while. As we meet today, our heroic firefighters are confronting 50 active fires throughout the state of Montana. This year alone, Montana has seen nearly 2,100 fires burn more than 825,000 acres. That's the largest area burned since 2017. These wildfires threaten the safety of our communities and first responders, devastate our local economies, and have cost the taxpayers of Montana $45 million since July 1st to fight these fires. While we are grateful, our prayers were answered with the recent rain and cooler temperatures. We all know the season's not over yet. It's critical Montanans stay informed and continue to do their part to prevent wildland fire starts. Please secure your trailer chains, maintain your equipment, and prepare your properties for wildfire. Also, always be prepared by having an evacuation plan if a wildfire is burning nearby. The better prepared we are, the safer and more effective our firefighters can be. As our state and partners represented here today have demonstrated this fire season, it takes an all-hands-on-deck approach for an effective fire response. There's a saying in fire that no one cares what color the engine is, and we've seen that demonstrated across the state this year. I was in Lame Deer last week on the Richard Springs and Lame Deer fires, and to hear the tribal council tell the story. This fire burned 100,000 acres in a single day. In total, it burned over 170,000 acres. The power poles were down. Power was lost in Lame Deer. The cell tower was gone. There was no communication with the outside world. All of the residents had been evacuated. The only people left were the tribal council and the emergency response folks there in Lame Deer. And as they watched the orange glow come up over the hill, they had a bus in the parking lot with the engine running, waiting to evacuate and abandon the town. Thankfully, the wind shifted and the town was saved. I was pleased that through their heroic efforts, the tribal folks, the farmers, the ranchers, the county resources, state resources, our federal partners, not a single home was lost in that massive fire. And the day I was there, every single person was back in their home. And to see every power pole between Colstrip and Lame Deer replaced less than a week after the fire hit just demonstrates the level of collaboration we have and the heroic work that goes on with so many people across the state as we continue to fight these fires. And the collaboration among partners represented here today has been critical to our fire response this season. And we need the same teamwork year-round to reduce the risk of catastrophic fire. We must work together to actively and meaningfully manage our lands to reduce the risk of wildfires. The benefits of active forest management are clear. We get healthier forests, improved wildlife habitat, enhanced recreational opportunities, more good-paying jobs, and most importantly, higher forest fire resiliency. That's why I support the bipartisan Resilient Federal Forest Act before Congress now. And I've urged President Biden to work with the 90 independent groups that support this legislation and the bipartisan group of 75 bill sponsors in the House to get it passed into law so we have better tools in the box to manage our forests. This bill will support proactive, science-based forest management at a pace and scale that matches the urgency of the forest health crisis we face and the size of the landscapes that we're dealing with out west. Because we have our work cut out for us, we've identified over 9 million acres of forest land in Montana with significant forest health issues that are at an elevated risk of wildfire. Just west of the capital in Helena, it's easy to see the problem, whereas as much as 90% of the forest is standing dead trees. It's literally a tinderbox. Of those acres, of the 9 million acres, we found 4 million acres that would benefit most from cross-boundary active forest management. For scale, to put it in perspective, last year the state only treated 11,000 acres. That's less than 0.3% of those acres that need urgent treatment. Clearly, we must do better. As a first step, I've charged our Department of Natural Resources and Conservation with more than doubling the acres it treats this year to 25,000 acres. We've also invested in 14 different cross-boundary projects throughout Montana. These 14 active management projects throughout our state will create more resilient forests, improve wildlife habitat, increase recreational opportunities, and support our local economies with good-paying jobs in the forestry products industry. Just like fire, forest health problems don't stop at fence lines. It's critical that we continue to work together and partner across ownership boundaries to manage our forests. Without active forest management, we can't be successful in improving forest health and reducing the risk of wildfires. But to be successful in both, we must end the frivolous lawsuits that delay essential forest management from projects from moving forward. In a meeting with the President last month on wildfire, governors from both parties expressed concern about frivolous lawsuits, and the President also expressed concern. We must take action to end these lawsuits. Fortunately, Montana has a leader in the United States Senate committed to doing just that. Senator Steve Daines is a leader in forest management reform, and I'm proud to have worked with him when I was in Congress to enact meaningful reforms. Senator Daines continues to champion active forest management and spearhead legislation that helps these projects move forward. It's an honor to have the senator here today with us, and I'd like to invite him to say a few words. Steve?
Governor Gianforte, thank you. And a great thank you as well to General Hronick, the DNRC staff, the Forest Service staff here today, and all of our firefighters and first responders. Greg mentioned the seriously injured firefighter we had over in Red Lodge, Dan Stephenson. I spoke with Chief Tom Kuntz yesterday, actually Sunday. My wife and I were in the Beartooth for a couple of days, and I was coming through Red Lodge. I touched base with Tom, and he said he's doing better, but he's got a long road ahead. He was severely burned and will have many surgeries in front of him, but we're grateful his life was spared, and we thankful for the good medical care he's receiving down in Salt Lake. This has been a really hot and dry fire season. As the governor mentioned, over 2,000 Montana fires to date. I think we're down to 49 active fires. Just got a text message. We stay on top of that all the time, real time. We're down to 49 active fires as we gather here today in Montana. We've lost about 50 homes across Montana this fire season. We've had many Montana families who have been forced to evacuate. And I too am very thankful for the great cooperation that we're seeing across Montana. Greg talked about the events down in Lame Deer. Not long after the big Lame Deer fire, there was a fire that broke out around Hayes on the Fort Belknap Reservation. Just exploded, and they were having to evacuate many tribal members and others. And I spoke with President Andy Work, the Fort Belknap tribe, and he said, Senator, I'm just so thankful. I can't believe the cooperation we're seeing. Multiple Montana counties and sheriff departments, we're sending resources there to help, just like we do in Montana. When a neighbor's in need, we get together and we help out. And thankfully, no lives were lost, and they were able to get that fire back under better control after a couple of days. But I know I can speak for all of us as Montanans. We are tired of looking at smoke-filled skies. I'm staring at it right now. We're tired of breathing smoke. We're tired of having to take our phones out and share pictures of what those mountains look like on a clear day with our friends and family members who are coming to visit us in Montana during the summer season. And we simply must do a better job of managing our forests before they manage us. The governor laid out the benefits of forest management clearly here today, because with sound forest management, we can reduce the impact of wildfires. We can improve wildlife habitat. We can protect watersheds. And importantly, we can provide work for our loggers and our sawmills. And I think earlier this spring, there are many who wished we had more lumber coming out of our sawmills. We saw the price spike. But what prevents us from doing a better job of managing our national forests? The Forest Service has been clear, and they've stated we need to increase the treatment acreages by 2 to 5 times versus where we're at today. The Biden administration actually moved to decrease our timber harvest targets in Region 1. Montana is expected to fall short of our timber harvest goal, largely due to one or two extreme environmental groups that are blocking agreed to timber projects. Many of you have been involved in these collaborations that we work together, bringing stakeholders to approve a timber project, only to be litigated against by just one or two groups. In fact, in Region 1, there are 14 projects held up in court as we speak here today. I mentioned I was in Red Lodge just a couple days ago. They battled a 30,000-acre fire there this summer earlier on Mount Maurice. In fact, the governor was there on one day. I think I came to that fire on the day after Governor Gianforte was there. But just 1 month ago, we saw an extreme environmental group block a project in this very area. I was walking down the West Fork of Rock Creek Trail just yesterday. You could see the effects of the 2008 fire there. There's another project they want to go and do some thinning, a treatment project. And one of these extreme environmental groups litigated it, and it's tied up in court now. So what needs to be done? We need to stop the frivolous litigation. There's 230 million board feet of timber tied up in lawsuits in the state of Montana as we speak here today. There's 400 million board feet tied up in litigation in Region 1. And Region 1, for many of you here who work in every day know this, but for those who don't, it's the panhandle of Idaho, it's the state of Montana, it's the Black Hills of South Dakota and North Dakota. I think they have 3 trees in North Dakota, but they're in Region 1. But we need to stop this frivolous litigation. And I've introduced a bill to do just that. It will fix what the 9th Circuit and the 10th Circuit Court disagree on. It's called the Cottonwood decision. The 10th Circuit ruled the right way, the 9th Circuit didn't. The Supreme Court said you've got to fix that in Congress, and we are working on that. The legislation I have put forward is exactly what the Obama administration wanted to fix back when President Obama was in office. We need to do that. I've been involved in this issue for a lot of years. Until we stop the frivolous litigation, we're never going to get to where we need to be here in terms of treatment of our national forest. The second thing is to cut red tape. We've got a number of bills that will do just that, and we're actively working as we speak to get those across the finish line and on President Biden's desk. So again, a big thank you to those who are here. We need and must do all we can to protect our communities, Montana families. I'm just so pleased to see what Governor Gianforte is doing here to raise our targets for treatment acres. Sadly, the contrast what's going on here in Montana, where that's heading down the right track versus what the federal government's doing and the current administration in actually reducing our targets here for treatment in our national forests. Governor?
Thank you, Steve. So thank you, Steve, for your comments and your leadership. I was also proud to work with Steve to get the U.S. Department of Agriculture to declare every county in Montana a drought disaster area. After repeatedly urging Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack to provide our farmers and ranchers with disaster relief, I'm pleased to say that every county in Montana is now eligible for aid through the USDA. Even still, our farmers and ranchers are faced with difficult decisions due to drought conditions. Do they sell early because they can't afford the hay? Will they be forced to sell their land? Facing these challenges, I have a message to Montanans throughout our state. There has never been a more important time to shop local and support our Montana producers. Buy from your local farmer or rancher when you can, and let's support our agricultural producers that have been dealt a really tough hand this year because of the drought. With every fire, we respond with one goal: put out the fire as quickly as possible. Regardless of whether a fire starts on private, state, or federal land, we apply the same operating principle across the entire state, that is, aggressive initial attack. This effective response model goes a long way in protecting our firefighters and minimizing impact of new fire starts. It's just easier to deal with them when they're small than when they're big. But it's only made possible through strong coordination among state, local, tribal, and federal partners. And thanks to the leadership of Director Amanda Castor at DNRC, Montana has been very effective in applying this model. Of the nearly 2,100 fires we've had this year, we've had a limited number of large-scale incidents using this aggressive attack principle. Director Castor, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon. As we have witnessed over the past few months, this has been a challenging fire season not only in Montana, but across the United States. While we have enjoyed some relief over the past few days, there are still weeks ahead of the active wildfire season. Given the historically dry year and prolonged fire season we have been experiencing, fire managers have had to work together to share resources, prioritize actions, and address challenges and resource shortages we've seen across the country. And I am proud to say our state's firefighting resources were prepared this season and will continue to provide safe and effective fire response until the season subsides. Across the state of Montana, our collective federal, state, and tribal wildland fire protection agencies have fought over 2,000 wildfires and have succeeded at catching 96% of new fire starts during initial attack. Keeping wildfires small, as the governor noted, not only saves Montana taxpayer dollars and reduces firefighters' exposure to risks, but it also prevents damage to our valuable rangelands, crops, timber, and other natural resources across the state. The Montana DNRC will continue to reinforce with our partners the importance of aggressive initial attack to keep wildfires small and short in duration. Our partnerships with federal, tribal, and local government partners and the support received from the Montana National Guard and our local and volunteer firefighting resources are essential to the coordinated efforts that fire suppression requires. Firefighting is a team effort. In challenging years like this one, it is more important than ever to rely on one another and the strength of our partnerships. I'm proud of how we have worked together under difficult conditions to suppress wildfires impacting Montana's communities. I want to thank all of our local, tribal, state, federal, and private contracting partners who have been integral to our collective efforts this summer and throughout the year. In particular, I want to call attention to a few of our partners for their efforts during this fire season who are helping to keep Montana's communities and ways of life intact. First, the local volunteer firefighters of Montana. These courageous individuals respond at all hours to protect their communities, and they are the untold heroes of success during initial attack this fire season. They are often the first on the scene and the last to patrol a fire in an area. The Montana National Guard answered the call to help assist us this summer on missions ranging from security, aerial and ground fire suppression, and logistical support. Over 200 National Guard members have been deployed to wildfire incidents, and National Guard helicopters have flown over 128 flight hours and delivered hundreds of thousands of gallons of water across the state. So I appreciate the support of Major General Ronick for all of that coordination effort. And third, the thousands of firefighters who have come to Montana from across the United States to assist during this wildfire season. This summer, with the severe resource shortages we have seen across the nation, the additional support we have received across our state has been invaluable. I cannot understate just how important this surge of capacity has been. Together, we have worked to provide safe and effective fire response during a historically dry summer. I want to express my heartfelt thanks to those first line responders, but I also do not want to lose sight on our collective need to manage Montana's forests and the work that we must do to improve our forest health and reduce the wildfire risk to our communities. Land managers need to adopt a level of coordination that is aligned with the coordination and urgency that we see during fire season. We must treat the conditions of our forests like the crisis that they are, and work together across ownership boundaries to address these issues collectively. It is going to take all of us working together. The Montana Forest Action Plan calls for this type of collaborative action, and by working together with our partners and using programs like the Good Neighbor Authority, we are making a meaningful impact at a pace and scale that was not previously feasible. Specifically demonstrating the DNRC's commitment to improving the conditions of our forests. As the governor noted, we have set a goal of doubling the number of acres treated per year by the DNRC, and the state of Montana also committed $4.5 million in state funds to jumpstart forest management and wildfire risk reduction projects across the state. With the Forest Action Plan and the Governor's Montana Comeback Plan, we remain committed to using all tools and programs available to reduce wildfire risk across the state. I am proud to say that we have stepped up to do our part, and this is only the beginning. Fire season is not over. We still have several weeks ahead of us, but I remain confident in the efforts of many who are working tirelessly and around the clock across the state to keep our communities, ways of life, and natural resources safe from wildfire. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm grateful for your work, your efforts, your leadership, and your staff this past season. And it's appropriate I give a shout out to both the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service. We requested that they adopt an aggressive initial attack strategy here in Montana. We received that commitment, and we've been working very well together here on the ground. Earlier than ever before, and until just this week, Montana and the nation have been at a preparedness level 5, which is the highest level. That means there have been stiff competition for resources and personnel to respond to fire erupting across our nation. Despite these resource constraints, our first responders have stepped up without fail. And I'd like to ask now Sonia Gurman to come up and please provide an update on the work that our firefighters on the ground as we head into the remaining weeks of the season. Sonia?
Thank you, Governor and Senator, and all of our guests and partners, and for all of our wildland firefighters, and for all of you to be with us today. And as you've heard, the 2021 fire season is one of our hottest and driest on record here in Montana. And over the course of this season, we have faced critical fire conditions earlier in the year than average, and we expect the fire season to continue well into the fall. During the season, we've also seen shortages of wildland firefighting resources across the nation, and it's been no different here in Montana. We've experienced significant fire activity. All of this combined has required tremendous stamina from our firefighting community, both on the ground and in the air. And as the governor said, and the senator as well, firefighting is inherently risky, and this year we've experienced loss and significant injuries. These deeply impact the families and the loved ones. They also impact the wildland firefighting community. And our hearts go out to those of you who make the ultimate sacrifice to protect our communities and our way of life. In the face of this challenging season, Montanans have a lot to be proud of, and I want to say that they are mostly represented by these fine folks behind us. And these are predominantly DNRC wildland firefighters, but they represent our larger wildland firefighting community. These times call on us to work together better than ever to make the best use of the resources that we've had. And I've talked to people who've been working in wildland firefighting for 30 years, and they said they were pressed this year, and they did the best they could, and they did an outstanding job working together on those shortages of resources. So from our neighbors to local volunteer firefighters to state, tribal, and federal agencies, we continue to partner well under challenging conditions, make well-informed decisions given the conditions and resources available, while always prioritizing firefighter and public safety first. While it's refreshing to have a little bit of a reprieve from the thick smoke that's been lacing our counties and our airsheds, and the recent moisture brought us quite a bit of reprieve, I want to remind everybody, and you've heard our leaders say this was not a season-ending event. There is a lot of wildfire season left. And the National Interagency Fire Center is forecasting above normal fire potential for much of Montana through October. So given this forecast, it's more important than ever to recognize that while we can't control the weather, we can control our actions. And thank you, Governor, for your consistent fire prevention messaging. We really appreciate your leadership in so many areas, including that one. And one of the best ways to reduce wildfire risk is to not start them in the first place. So not start wildfires in the first place. So please stay vigilant this fall as we head into hunting season, as we head into more agricultural activity, please be vigilant and prevent wildfires. And I want to echo the heartfelt thank yous that have been extended to our firefighters. And I also want to emphasize thank yous, emphasize the appreciation to the families and loved ones of our firefighters. We acknowledge and appreciate their personal sacrifice and their personal sacrifice made by the families and loved ones of our firefighting community while they are working to keep our community's ways of life and natural resources safe from wildfire. On behalf of all the Montanans, we are immensely grateful for your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Recognizing the severe fire season, we took early action to get the Montana National Guard soldiers ready for the fire line. Before this season, 100 Montana National Guard soldiers had red cards. Now, 600 Montana National Guards have red cards. Through the coordination with our partners, we've trained over 500 National Guard soldiers to be fire line ready this summer. These brave men and women will be tremendous assets to our state as we confront fires moving forward. And I'm glad to have Adjutant General Pete Ronick here today to provide an update on the Guard's mobilization. Major General.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Governor. As my Commander-in-Chief in the state here, it's been an honor to serve and support with the great soldiers and airmen in the state here. I'll give you a brief update of some of the service that they provide to Director Castor and her great DNRC team. It's been wonderful to partner with her, and also with my disaster emergency services that works underneath me, and the collaboration they've had to get the actions needed and get the people in the right spots. As of today, we've had 529 that have served or are currently serving soldiers and airmen on fires this season. We've conducted warehouse operations, security operations at the Lolo Complex, air operations with Blackhawks in Billings, and the Chinook aircraft in Helena. We put 40 hand crews on the American Fork fire, 40 hand crews in the Woods Creek fire, and also the same amount on the Alder Creek fires. We've also have 7 serving at the fire camp in the Burt Creek fire. And of course, we have 19 soldiers serving in support at the Emergency Operations Center, our Joint Operations Center, also working finance, logistics, and maintenance. Equipment used, been 6 helicopters that were activated and 55 military vehicles, and that's been great to see the equipment they've been providing as needed to the DNRC fighting the fires. We have also, like the governor said, a lot of red card training, and I want to say thank you to the Forest Service providing that training. So we got the training before they needed to be activated. So it's a key piece, because it takes about 4 days of training before we can get them on the fire. So we always led turn that one. So with the activation from the governor and with the Forest Service, we're able to not miss a beat, one call to duty. Of that, with our DNRC, we have also provided fire management assistant grants. 4 have been approved. Right now, we're looking at the Robertson Draw, the Buffalo, the PF, and the Richard Springs fires. So those are big resources that we can bring back to commuters from the federal government that will help in the cost of bearing this. So I do appreciate being a part of this team, supporting the DNRC, and being on the ready call for the governor here. So thank you, Governor and Senator Daines, for your leadership. It's been a good fire season, but the nice thing is we're continued to be ready with a lot of resources if needed, called by the governor. Thank you.
Thank you, General Ronick. So in conclusion, really on behalf of all of us here, thank you to our courageous firefighters, both professional and volunteers who are on the front lines. Your efforts are protecting our communities, protecting our natural resources, and saving lives. I also want to thank all the volunteers who have stepped up to provide food, water, shelter, and support to evacuees. Fortunately today, all evacuation and pre-evacuation orders have been lifted across the entire state, and no Montanan today is under an evacuation order. As we confront more challenges and fires this season, I know our first responders and partners and volunteers throughout the state will step up like they have all season. Thank you for being here today, and with that, I'd be happy to take a few questions for myself or any of the other speakers here. Peter.
There's been some troubling reports that so many of these fires have been human caused, and I don't know how many of those, what percentage of those might be arson caused. So when it comes to a situation like this, are these state charges, federal charges? How would you go handle that?
Well, you are right. A majority of the fires we've seen this year are human caused. I would not say necessarily they are malicious, however. On the montanafireinfo.org, there's a pie chart that shows the sources of these various fires. Some are still undetermined. There's investigations underway. And I would just point to, Sonia, do you have data on sources of fire starts that you could share?
And I would say, Peter, it's going to take us well into the fall to understand the actual cause of a lot of these fires. We have pretty rough information on that right now. So what you'll see on that website is what we know as of now. But like the governor said, we're going under investigation. In some cases, we don't know the cause. Yeah. Thank you.
What the problem is and be careful.
We appreciate the echoing of that message. Yes.
Here's one other thought on that too. It was a piece of legislation we're working on, given the fact that if you look at human-caused fires, 95% of those occur within a half a mile of a trail or roadway, which just makes sense. And we're moving through with a piece of legislation that would provide what they call a categorical exclusion. In other words, it cuts through the red tape and allow 3,000-acre chunks of ground to be treated in an expeditious fashion to ensure that we can take care of those areas where the most human activity occurs.
Okay. Other questions? Dennis?
But then also Senator Dean, too. What can you do to sort of sell this resilient forest concept to your other governors? I mean, obviously, they're getting the idea, and some of them are dealing with it, but what's it going to take to build a coalition, if you will, to try and push this type of thing through?
Well, I think we're all tired of breathing our forests instead of going out and recreating and enjoying them. There is broad-based support for healthier forests. The legislation that's currently in front of the U.S. House has 90 independent groups supporting it of all stripes. There's a bipartisan group of 75 legislators who are on board with this Resilient Federal Forest Act. So I think the consensus is building. I'd like to push this hard while we're dealing with fires, because out of sight, out of mind, now's the time to act. This is why I recently sent a letter to President Biden following our conversation when we had broad agreement from Democrats and Republicans that we need more active forest management. Senator, do you want to comment?
Sure. Some of the challenges we faced back in Washington is that here we are in Montana, in the west, where we have drought conditions, high temperatures. If you're watching the news in the last 24 hours, I think Nashville had 17 inches of rain just outside of the Nashville proper. So they're living in a deluge situation. And when you want to talk about fire management, we need to get them on the East Coast out here to Montana. And I will tell you, Dianne Feinstein, who, of course, a Democrat senator from California, and Dianne and I disagree on a lot of policy issues back in Washington. But following the devastating, these catastrophic wildfires in California, as we all know, most of this smoke that we're seeing and breathing is California smoke. And she just got to a point of saying, we've got to do something. And so she just has become now a real ally to elicit bipartisan support in some of these provisions here that we were talking about today. I really do, and I think in the context of what's going on, you think about our forests. A healthy forest is a carbon sink. A forest fire emits a lot of CO2, and so as we start addressing these issues regarding the climate, let's talk about how healthy forests should be part of that solution as it relates to reducing CO2 emissions.
Rob, do you have a question?
You are budgeting for state firefighting on a biannual basis. How are you doing with your expenditure rate this year and what's left of next year?
Sure. Director Castor, can you address that question? First, I'll say we topped off the fund July 1st. It was about $105 million, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Yeah, and I probably have the data. The briefing this week, I think we spent about 45.2 million. So there's still some money in the kitty. Fire season's not over though, but this was an exceptionally high year. And as General Ronick mentioned, we've been able to get federal relief on 4 of our fires that threatened a lot of structures. That has the federal government covering 75% of those fires, with the state bearing a 25% portion. Yep. Margaret, do you have a question? Okay. Well, thank you for coming out, and again, thank you to our brave firefighters for the work you do. We're not out of the woods yet, but appreciate the work you do on the front line, and you're having a real impact, and Montana appreciates it. Thank you.